Today's episode of The Jackalope is brought to you today by our friends at Infinity Flex Cards, Comics, and Games. If you're looking for a one-of-a-kind or any kind of comic book, go check out Infinity Flex's massive comic book inventory. Or if you're looking to get into a game, host a game, or pick up your gaming essentials, Infinity Flex is your one-stop shop for all things cards, all things comics, and all things games. That's Infinity Flex right there on Hickson Pike. Just stop on in, tell them the Moose sent you, and see what magic can happen. So this week, couple things I want to get you in the know about. August 9th, Poetry is Lit will be at the Heart Gallery. That show starts at 7 p.m. If you want to get in on what the poets have going on, they'll be at the Heart Gallery this week, August the 9th. Go check them out. Also, if you feel like tickling your art fancy, the Landing Sea opening night will be August the 10th, 6 p.m. over at Stoveworks. They're going to be exploring the ways in which water works, doesn't work, is exploited, used, misused. You get the idea. It's a love note for the water. Oceans and seas, fresh waters and rivers. Check that out, especially if you're environmentally inclined. But if poetry and art isn't your flavor this week, may I suggest Cutthroat Comedy, a live comedy game show that will be held at the Palace Theater August the 10th. Doors open at 8. Show starts at 9 o'clock. There'll be stand-up comedy, games, and so much more. Go check that out. August the 10th, the Palace Theater. So this week I bring you a very special interview with Erika D. Roberts. We had a phenomenal talk over at the Edney Innovation Center, and she is a local poet and a master spoken word artist. She hosts various events throughout the city, throughout the year. She's a very busy lady, but she did take the time out of her busy day to have a chat with me. We talk about the upcoming generation of spoken word artists in the city, what inspires her, and the Netflix series. She's got to have it. So check it out. Hope you enjoy. Erika, Miss E.
Hey.
How are you today?
Most amazing. How are you?
So glad you're here with me today at the Edney Innovation Center.
Yes.
So you've been a very busy lady. What do you have going on these days?
Oh my goodness. A lot. Books, writing, nonstop writing, performing, and creating. Full-time job, feels like. Don't get to stop.
I see a lot of events happening on your Facebook page. And where do you find the time to spin all these plates?
I squeeze in stuff, and I'm really guilty of probably double booking myself. Like I'll do one at 12 and then turn right around, and 3 o'clock got to be over here and do it. But it's worth it. I enjoy it. And once you have like a weird methodology of creating stuff, it almost becomes routine. So wherever I drop, I can start writing whenever, wherever. And that's usually what happens.
So you've been into poetry for quite some time. How old were you, or when did you first get into poetry?
5th grade. Yep. Mrs. Mackey, Dr. Mackey's wife. She was my 5th grade teacher, introduced me to poetry, and I loved it until I got to 6th grade. And they started talking about the iambic pentameter, and I immediately hated it and didn't go back to it until probably about 7th or 8th grade. And I realized that it was something that was constant, something that was really, really important to me as a kid, as a person. And my mom's a writer, so we had books forever, and I found poetry books on shelves. Maya Angelou, found them, and before long I just couldn't help but write, and I wrote every day.
What kind of stuff did you write about?
Back then I was writing about being a nerd. Probably that was the biggest, or how isolated I felt, because I was a little different, quiet, kind of book worthy. I always had pens and books or notebooks and paper, and I was always scribbling or writing something. And so I wrote a lot about being alone, wrote a lot about being a quiet person. I realize now I probably needed therapy.
Do you think that working things out through poetry really helped you cope?
Yes. And I'm not so bad now. I mean, I'm on stage, but back then I had found out I was dyslexic really young, and so that has a huge effect on you, how you write. Numbers are horrible. And I really didn't want anybody to notice, that I had a problem. I had a stutter, a really bad one as a kid, and I read below my grade level. And so I wrote about that, wanting to be able to read with ease. And I don't know what happened. I guess my mom's hard work and putting notes on stuff at home helped me get past that. Now I'm on stage, no stutter. By the time I was in the 9th grade, I was reading, even higher than I should have been at that point. But that was a lot of the content back then. And I think therapy through poetry has been most helpful. Because it's the first thing I go get. Somebody's making me mad. I'm like, I'm about to write about you.
You get to eviscerate them. And
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So when was your first stage performance?
I was, in my church, growing up, we had this pageant thing. And we would perform in it. And so I did this poetic dramatization about Sojourner Truth, and that was the beginning. And I think I was probably 16 or 17, and that was the beginning. And then people at the church started asking me, oh, can you write one for this person? And then, can you write this one? And before long, I realized, oh, I can write this and perform it? Oh, wow. And then I met up with Rhyme and Chat, which is a local poetry group. They're still active here, but I met them a long time ago. If you talk to any poets, usually over the age of 30-something, they probably linked up with Rhyme and Chat at one point, because that's where you went when you did poetry. You went to their meetings, their classes, or their sessions. And I went there, and I really enjoyed it. Got to meet a lot of other poets, got to hear other styles. And I realized I could probably do this. So 17 and 18, I really started doing slam. I really enjoyed it, but I think I kind of got lost in the wanting to one up on somebody. So the creative side would kind of go away, because you want to get the next line.
Did it feel more competitive in that environment rather than creative?
Absolutely. You want to be snappy. And even though I was witty and snappy, I was like, I don't know that this fits my type of poetry.
So how big was the slam scene at that time?
Well, here it wasn't as big as most places. It was probably a good 15, 20 people that would do it. But we did it in different ways. And then also, too, I was convinced that maybe we weren't doing it the right way back then. Because when I went to competition, like in Atlanta or other places, those kids were killing. I mean, I was like, I need to up my ante or something. I don't know. But it was they took it extremely serious. And I don't know if we just didn't take it seriously or if we just didn't know the form well enough. But I quickly decided that this may not be, my first love, the slamming part. I still love battle rap, though, which is kind of kin to it. But I decided just to go straight and just write. And then I realized I write easily, erotic stuff, very easy. And that's how I started making money, writing dirty stuff.
Well, there's nothing wrong with some poetic smut. And you're still doing the erotic poetry in town, right? It's
Poetry After Dark, the midnight sessions. And each one has a theme to it. I created them specifically because I would want to go do something. It would always be like at midnight. And I'm like, yo, what's everybody doing? Let's go do some poetry. And they're like, what? At midnight? I'm like, yeah. And I was like, you know what? I think people will want to do it. Let's see what happens. And great following. Third show will be coming up August 17th with So Chill. Shout out So Chill. It's going to be a good show. But these shows are really vulnerable. They're designed to see the other side of the artist. What makes them create through their artistic language. We get to see that side. It's usually an emotional type show. A good way to start your week out. It's going to be amazing. So Chill is a dope poet and musician. He's got a couple of guest vocalists that are going to be with him. Mishy. Hey, Mishy. We got Victoria Priest. We have Marley Fox. All those are guest vocalists and lyricists with him. And it's hashtag solo keys because he's just going to play keys himself. And we hope to make it, a destination. I want people to be like, yo, did you catch the last one? I want people to really make it, an actual intentional destination to come to those midnight shows because there's always something different. I don't tell everything that's going to happen before the show. I don't post everything that's going to happen. because I want to leave something for a surprise.
Leave a little something for the imagination.
Absolutely.
Now, you've found a new home at the Palace. Is that going to be a continuing venue for the midnight sessions?
Yes, for the midnight sessions and a couple of the other shows too, because I'm doing a show there. Literally, I'm doing a show there every month except for December. So, but the one for November is more of a day event. It's called Wrapped, and it's a head wrap tutorial. If y'all know me, I wear head wraps all the time. It's a head wrap tutorial, fashion show, and there's some poetry at the end. But we're talking about everyone walks up to me and they're like, "Oh my God, can you show me how to rap?" And I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll do a show like that. And so that one's not a midnight show, but we get right back into it in February. I'm going to do one more in January, I think, and then I may take a break. I'll still do February and then come right back. February is going to be the big one, though.
Ooh, is that because it's the month of love?
Yes. So the poetry from that one is inspired by Spike Lee's series on Netflix, She's Gotta Have It.
Which is amazing.
Oh, so dope. I'm a fan of Mars. So good. So good. I remember when I saw the first Spike Lee, I was like, what's going on? I'm pretty sure I'm missing something because I'm too young for this. Mm-hmm. But then when they did it this way, I was like, wow. This makes so much. It's like the original. It's like Sex and the City, the original.
The original, right?
You know?
And it seems like it was always meant to be like a series.
I think so too. Yeah.
You know, like you see this person just different facets of her, and it's just, I don't know. I really like it. It felt very organic to watch something.
Absolutely, and I loved how he used the characters, because the best friend that's in the original is actually playing Nola Darling's mom in the series. And the original Nola Darling from the movie is actually an artist in the show who comes to her art show. And she's like, oh, I'm such a fan of you. And it's so cool. I like the way they collided them so that us old heads that know the original don't feel totally left out. Right. That night's going to be erotic. I will not apologize for it, but I give heads up. That one's going to be really erotic just because of the subject matter. You can't talk about She's Gotta Have It. You can't have poetry about She's Gotta Have It and not talk about sex, because that's a really huge character in the show. That's what everyone's arguing about. That's what everyone, wanting to be with her in her loving bed. So we're even having a loving bed built. It's going to be, we even have a burlesque dancer.
No kidding, a burlesque dancer? Who'd you get?
Juno Mars, my favorite. Hey, Juno, my favorite. I love her so. She is one of my favorites. I love her so.
That is fantastic, and I am highly looking forward to that one. Juno Mars is an all-time favorite. Very photogenic. I've caught her around for the past 3 years at events that I cover, so that's going to be pretty awesome to see Juno. But while we're on the topic, Nola, how much do you identify with that main character?
Oh, a lot. A lot. Not that I have like side dudes, because that ain't even possible. But I understand her freedom, and I think every artist understands her. Either you understand her from the standpoint of her filling out these grants so that she can stay painting, so she can stay, her having 5,000 hustles, walking dogs and all kinds of stuff just to stay afloat. I totally get that. And then from a female side, we see her and her tribe of women, her friends. They're all different. They're all true to each other because they call each other out on their mess. So it's perfect. My tribe is the same way. They call me out in a heartbeat. We support each other, just as in the movie. The relationships, I have friends that meet each of those guys that are kind of like those guys. Nothing, intimate about them, but I understand the difference in those. And it's funny how each of them want Nola in a different way. And it's different how my friends are different with me in different ways. But I totally identify. I think I identify with Nola even more so as I've gotten older and my kids are grown and not married, not dating. I totally get where the freedom comes from. Being comfortable with who you are. But also, not wanting to be labeled a bad person because you don't want necessarily a relationship. But I like it. It's good.
So you're finding a lot more freedom in your work. Is that why when I find you, you seem to have all these plates spinning?
Yeah. I got my feet and arms spinning plates. But, you know, I joked with Liz. Shout out to Flow on Me. I was joking with her after we did Asylum last year. I was like, what am I going to do? I don't have anything to do. I don't have anything to post. I got to do something. And I felt a sense of depression almost because I didn't have an immediate show. So I think if I drop these plates, I'll probably go dark. I don't think it'll be a good E. I think it'll be bad E.
So when you were raising kids, did you find time in order to perform and write at the same time?
Just writing. Yeah. I just couldn't do it. Couldn't perform as much. Now, when my kids got about 15, my son's 22 now, and my daughter's 18. When they got much older and their need for me wasn't the same, I was heartbroken, but at the same time, it gave me one night a week that I could probably go and perform. And so I went to Mocha because they had an open mic. And I was green. I was bumbling and dropping paper, and I just looked a mess. But it was me coming back, and I started feeling very comfortable again, hanging out with different poets, trying to grab their energy. And before long, I ended up, being almost a host for some of those open mics, and it was just a learning. But it was hard coming back because I wasn't the same person that left the stage. When I left the stage, I was, 21, 22, about to have a kid. Going back, I was a sense of ease. I'm more mature. I'm grown. I can't even read some of the poems that I wrote back then because they don't apply.
It was a whole other person.
Absolutely. So this is a new chapter. And I used to be, I wrote erotic back then, but I wrote it from a standpoint of probably from a very selfish, just wanting good sex. Let's just write about good sex. Now my poetry is erotic, but it's about the intimacy that happens before that conversation, that sapiosexual interaction that happens that becomes so extremely important. I can write about that and be seductive. And then I realized that I can write about the alphabets and make them sexy. Don't even have to worry. It didn't have to be, sexy.
This isn't kindergarten's alphabet. Have you done that already?
Yeah. I'm going to put it in one of the shows because it's kind of dope.
Now, the term sapiosexual is used quite frequently in your work. What is your perception of that? Because the way I understand it is to be sapiosexual is to transcend the physical aspects of attraction, that you can find eroticism in just the very conversations that you have with another.
You're attracted to their intelligence. And people get it wrong too sometimes. Sapiosexual doesn't just mean a male and a female. It could be your actual, it could be your friends. I've noticed that the people that I choose to hang with they're extremely intelligent, and it's attractive. You want to sit with them. I want to go hang with my girls because I know I'm gonna come back with something dope because they're smart, very intellectual, and that's seductive in a way, intoxicating even. Once you have a good conversation that has sapiosexual tendencies or whatever, you'll start to crave that conversation, and you'll crave a specific type of conversation. I want to have a conversation. That's why a lot of the shows I do are about something that I hope sparks a takeaway. That we go back and talk about it, or someone does. Which is why she's got to have it probably before we even do any of the poetry of the night. We may even have a quick discussion, about it before we get into the actual performances, because it sparks you. It sparks your thinking, and that's part of that intellectual, that part of that brand of conversation. You can probably go sit in a corner and talk to anybody, but you won't be getting that same energy unless it's something that's really deep and meaningful, and it has an exchange. And that's always what I'm looking for. Always crave it.
So when I first met you, you were doing a poetic piece over at the Hunter Art Gallery. And during that time, you were surrounded by people who I follow to this day. And since then, has your circle of people grown?
Yeah, actually, I think it has. And also, I think we've all got to know each other a little bit better and know what we're what we're better at, each of us. Yeah, it's gotten massive. We all have branched out and done our own workshops, or where we have the new poets, the new generation of poets, kind of helping them get their feet wet without, getting bamboozled. So we're hoping that some of the places that we've performed at that maybe we didn't get paid at, maybe we can affect it in a way that these young people pay them. We took it already. You pay them.
Yeah, kind of paving the way.
Absolutely. Not in an arrogant way, but in a way that needs to happen. Yeah, so many times I think I don't call myself a mentor at all. I think mentors I have to have another level of success before I'll even say that, and I still may not say it then either. Mm-hmm. But I feel like I can give advice, on what not to do, because I may have done it and it was stupid. And I know a lot of people that are mentors in the city, and they go a little ham, they get a little egotistical, they get a little crazy, almost as if, I've created this person, and I don't believe in that at all. I believe that helping them within their artistic language, helping them within whatever they're doing. I do challenge them. I'll send word prompts to my homies. Yo, write something to this. And they're like, oh, you're always challenging me. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, but write it. See what happens.
That's the point.
Yeah, and moving, making ourselves well-rounded. And the lessons are crazy. Once you get into that, the lessons become paramount.
The voices of the younger generation, how different are they from when you were their age coming up?
Ooh. I think when I was growing up, it was during conscious rap. So we were trying to, I don't know if we were trying to be, not so serious. I think we felt like we didn't want to be totally serious because we had so much seriousness already going on. Now, the younger poets are almost social justice writers, almost. They're writing from a very desiring freedom space, and I like that. They seem to be more open than I was back then. Open to try new things, open to collab. Because if you had told me at age 21 that I would be doing poetry on stage with a live band, I would have laughed, because I'm like, they'll go together. I'm not a rapper. Mm-hmm. But now I've done it so often, and it's so easy. So it's totally different now. And I think the younger generation understands that, and they're more open to that molding part. Let me give you this song and see what you hit, how it, you interpret it. And next thing you know, I've got a ton of kids that are really willing and able, doing poetry while there's a dancer, doing poetry while there's a saxophone playing, any of that. And also, too, striking them, helping them learn that being impromptu, doing freestyling is not that hard. It's almost liberating to be able to get on stage and just, most of the times when I get on stage with the band, most of the time I don't write it. I'll just fly with them. And it's a sense of freedom.
And with today's ease of getting a hold or being exposed to the social structure or social information just being plugged in, they grew up in a society where it's all immediate to be exposed to all these things, where when we were kids, we could turn off or go outside and not be flooded with Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. So how has that fact of our daily lives somehow cultured their poetic vibes, if you will?
I see a sense of social PTSD in them. It bothers them, they have to write it. Caleb the poet, Caleb Golson, is one of those who stays true to social injustice and speaking out and making sure that, we are well aware. Marie Mott, all of those people are constantly poetically putting out what needs to be heard. Marcus Ellsworth are constantly, and I think those are great examples for the young people now to follow, as a sense of getting out what they're feeling. And also, too, getting a good workshop. I have one that's every 2 weeks on a Thursday, and I invite them to vent in the beginning, let it out, let's write and let's get in, and it's usually really something profound that happens. Someone else says something that sparks this person to write, and they start writing right there in class. I think we average about 6 poems in the class, probably writing 6 at least. And those young people are I'm seeing them pull from headlines. I'm seeing them pull from, I think one night a couple of people wrote about Kanye's stupid comment, and it was just because they were frustrated. We had a discussion about it, being vulnerable with your artistic language and showing what goes on. You can't help but mirror, what's in your community, what's going on. I wrote one piece about gentrification, and I posted it, and I was like, pretty sure I won't be they'll probably blackball me on that one. But I felt like it needed to be said. Stay Woke was that show. That midnight show was the same. It was intense. It was hardcore. Black folks were mad, and they just wanted to vent it. And there were some of the young people that are in my Poetry is Lit. They were some of the artists, and they had pulled from the actual newspaper. They had pulled from CNN and all these others, and made vital poems that are going to last. Every culture, every time in history that's been hard has a poet or somebody that speaks about it. W. Du Bois or Langston Hughes or Nikki Giovanni. And then we had Tupac. They have voices. Maya Angelou spoke for a lot of women. They speak. Zora Neale Hurston from way back. Every era has that. And then we look at the history of poetry and poets. Over the ages, people would go to the poets because they figured we must know something. As intellectuals, let's go to sit at the foot. Socrates, let's go talk. We want to know, what do you know? And I think there's a gap too, a little, we're trying to bridge it, but I think there's a gap between being an artist and an activist. I think there's a gap in there. I think for some reason over the last 10 years, I think we're thinking that we can't be both. And I disagree. We can be. Artistic activism. Maybe it's not marching, but it is writing what you see. It's leaving something behind. That's how I look at it. So if I'm writing something about something that happened, I wrote about Castile, when he was killed, that's going to be left for somebody else to read. And they're going to know that even though those videos and other people went live and she was live, that it was real, and that it made a huge impact on the artistic community. And that's one way to get us together quickly, is if there's something that we need to write about, if there is a injustice of some sort. I've even called my other poetic friends. I'm like, yo, we gotta write. I'm feeling some way. I'm feeling stressed. We need to write about this. And we'll come up with something to write. And that's one of the reasons why Stay Woke was brought about. There's a new group, too, those that were born after 9/11. They're growing up in a different world.
I would assume very, very terrifying.
Absolutely. After 9/11, tons and tons and tons of mass school shootings. My daughter was even nervous about school when she was 9th grade, 10th grade. Wow. She was nervous, what do I do? She was nervous. I was nervous. But I think that group of young people after 9/11, I think they feel they have the responsibility to speak out through their artistic language. Those that I have met that come to the Poetry is Lit. And it's good to see them. It's great to see them working in their language. It's even better seeing them when they actually get on stage and make it happen. That's what's really amazing, is when they actually do it on stage and get to see how the world is molding what we write. And I have great, and I hate to call them fans because I hate that word, but it's really cool, for them to stop me, on the street. I'm like, yo, I was at your show. First thing I think was, which one was it? Was I being dirty or was I? Which one? What was I doing? Right. I don't know which one. I don't know if I should blush right now or if I should just be like, oh. But it's great for that to happen, to run into those people that support. A lot of them are writers on the slick low, and they see something in the movement that makes them want to write more, and they'll reach out to me. Oh, can you read this? I want to do this. Can I do this? I want to do this. And it's super cool. It's really amazing to see the movement, the poetry. I made a comment last year, and I think I'm sticking with it. It's like poets are trending like Croptops and Cardi B, because we are. Everybody's like, oh, put a poem on it. Put a poet on the show. Everybody will come.
Well, now you got poets with painters and dancers, and it's just this big mix of things.
It's crazy.
And it's transcending the idea of what a typical poetry reading is.
Right. And I say it all the time. I cannot tell you that at 6:55 p.m. we're going to be creative. However, I can at 6:50 invite a ton of artists and make the environment atmosphere right for it. Like a tornado. Needing warm air and cool water to swoosh up. And before you know it, you've got a magic moment. And what happens after that is that people are like, okay, how do I make that happen again? How do I tap into that again? That's when they begin to open up that brain, that part of their brain that says, this is really okay. And next thing you know, they're moving on, and they're doing more. They're doing a lot more. Poetry, collabing, even collaborations they thought would not be possible. They're putting it together and making it happen.
So, E, I've got to ask, who's your favorite poet?
Langston Hughes is my favorite overall. Locally, my favorite poet locally, it's actually two. Kanika Jamila and Liz Willis. Those are my favorite poets.
Kanika's great.
Oh,
she is a powerhouse.
Mercy. She don't even know that she challenges me. Like, I read one of her poems, I'm like, oh, I gotta go write something.
Yeah.
I'd be like, she's gonna make me write.
She is
a hammer. And she's always talking about me and my word flips. And that's what's even funnier about the community. Each of us we have our different brand inside. Kanika has a very urban and very solid type of brand of poetry. Liz has a very sapiosexual, extremely intelligent wordsmith dropping. I feel like I do word flips. I play with words. I don't use them the same way. My English teacher would probably shoot me, but I don't use them the way that you would expect to use it. I like to flip them and use them in weird ways. You have Ark Twitty, who does a word flipping where he could end one line with a syllable at the end of a word and start the next one with the same sound. That kind of stuff doesn't come like you don't go to a class to learn that. That's just who you are.
It's your identity.
Absolutely.
And it's
so dope.
It's just
nothing to play with. And I've sat with her, and she's so humble. And then when you hear her words, you're like, you need to brag. If I'm gonna give you credit, you need to brag. And Liz just has such a vocabulary that I've been like, hold on, what word was that? And when I don't even know.
With the thesaurus and dictionary.
I'm like, I don't even know. How did she? What the? But yeah, some of the most amazing. And we have Poetry versus Hip Hop coming back August 24th.
So
it's going down. Poetry.
Quick plug. These things you got going on.
Poetry.
You got something the 17th.
17th. That is So Chill Solo Keys at the Palace. Doors open at 11:11, and then the show starts at midnight. After that, we got the 24th at the Camp House with Poetry versus Hip Hop. Shout out Sheba and DJ Know That. And then we have, I'll probably start working on the September Lincoln Park. I've been the coordinator for the talent part for that for the last couple of years. So we got poets, got singers for that. So not only do I write poems, perform them, but then I also organize a lot of events for people. This one's outdoor, and we got poets in it too. And then I gear back up for the next set of shows for Poetry After Dark. Like right now, I got like 4 events I'm managing on Facebook.
Well, I appreciate you coming in and telling me all about it and telling the world about it. It's been fantastic. I've been wanting you on a podcast of some kind.
I'm so excited.
And hopefully I will have many more.
Yes.
And I'll catch up with you when the midnight sessions roll back in.
Please.
I'm probably going to be front row to that one.
Absolutely.
With my notebook.
Because it's going down.
Oh, it's going to be good. So
let's see what we got going on here. I knew you were going to do that. I don't know why. I knew it. I was like,
a little something for the people at home.
I knew he was going to ask me to do something.
Because they're like, he's going to be on this podcast. They're going to be like, well,
what does she do?
Yeah, what does she do?
Let's see what we got. Okay, I think I can do this one. I love this. It's such a good idea to have different types of artists on a podcast.
Well, I got immense respect and love for y'all, and I think once I started learning of y'all when I was writing, for the Pulse, I just felt like y'all need some of that global love.
Absolutely. We do. Not many people know how to find us or what we're up to. All right. This piece I wrote for an outdoor thing. Speaking to the ancestors, realizing that they required the best of us. Speaking to the ancients, realizing where our place is. Seeking refuge, we refuse to be a victim. Requiring greatness, requiring respect. We fight the jungle of racism to find a safe haven. We are free thinking, way making, possibility pushing, positive speaking melanin beings. Pushing through doors, knowing that ceilings can't hold us. Fighting discrimination, we won't fold, we just continue building. We continue educating. We continue informing. We educationally bend racist corners with the lean of a panther. We are gathering in the mental Wakanda. We are the vibranium. We are the seekers. We are the visionaries. We are the next. We are the future. We drip the universal constellations from our exhausted brows. We have the stars in our eyes. We are setting a course and we're mapping out our greatness, GPSing success, locking it in and down. We wear the crowns. We are writing the future sagas of the take back, and we have 45 reasons why. One love.
Chills. Wow. I love the Marvel reference.
Because it's my favorite.
Wakanda.
That movie has so many jewels in it. Ugh.
I want to.
Oh, okay. You just, woo.
I've been on Luke Cage. I'm a Luke Cage fan.
Just get ready.
Get ready.
Because it's something amazing. Like it didn't do, even, a lot of people say it had a lot of hype, but I think it was perfect. It had such good jewels in it, but I look deeper into stuff, so that's a great show to do some poetry inspired by.
You think poetically. It's just facts. I don't know, like I think in these weird poetic terms.
Yeah, my friends get mad at me because they say I talk in stanzas.
This has been great.
Thank you.
Where can we find you? Velvet Poetry.
You can go to Erika D. Roberts, or you can put in Velvet Poetry. I have a page on Facebook, and it's the same on IG. Look at me up. I post all the time the shows that are coming up, and come out and hang with us.
Alrighty. It's been great. And that was Erika D. Roberts. And that wraps it up for today's episode of The Jackalope. Be sure to follow Erika at Velvet Poetry Productions on Facebook, and give a like and follow the Palace Theater to see what all kinds of events they have going on. Truly, it's an exciting time in this city to be in the presence of some of these great spoken word artists and even some of these amazing venues that host them. All right, so get on out there. Check them out, and don't forget to rate and review the podcast wherever you may find us. We're available on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Podbean. You can also drop us a line. Let us know how we're doing at thejackalope@gmail.com. If you have a story idea, if you are a artist out there in the scenic city and you want to get your voice heard, you want to tell your story, we'll be all ears, ready to hear you. So go ahead and drop us a line. Let us know. We'd love to hear from each and every one of you out there. So, and in the meantime, folks, we'll catch you around town.